years.
Oh, you're going to stay in maybe?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. How about you?
Colorado.
Colorado?
Yeah.
How long you been in?
5 years.
5 years?
Battle Creek, Michigan. I've been in for a little over 2 years.
And say that again about the mission.
I'm from Battle Creek, Michigan.
Gotcha. This will be off post. This will be off camera if you don't know the answer. And I'm not trying to be a wise guy. How many streamers on there? Would you say a guess? How many streamers on there?
184.
Well, I asked you that question, and man, all 5 of you just said 184.
Better than the honor guard.
Yeah, and well, what's the first streamer?
Lexington.
Lexington. And what's the last one you added to it?
Iraq.
Okay. All right. Nice meeting you gentlemen today, and nice seeing you all. And they're bright yellow and black and light blue. Yes, sirree.
Today. My name is Jan Scruggs. It's a pleasure to be here, and isn't it wonderful to have this great weather? Well, now that I have everyone's attention, I want you to spend a moment and shake hands with the person sitting next to you, because after all, you should get to know each other, because you will be listening to me as your MC and others for 45 minutes or so. After all, we're all here for the same reason.
Oh, thank you very much, ma'am.
I think that reason is to get inspired, and there are so many inspiring stories here. I just spoke to Captain Pat Lynch with U.S. Air, and he's been flying military veterans from Arizona to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial for over 25 years. And there he is. Pat, where are you? There he is. Hey, Pat, how you doing? Well, now this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play the bonding game here, because right now I'm going to ask that everyone who served in different branches of the military make some sort of a noise. So we're going to start by saying, how many people here served in the U.S. Navy? Okay, so the next one would be the U.S. Air Force. Has anyone here served in the Merchant Marine? Woo! Coast Guard? Okay. How many people here served in the U.S. Army? Did I leave any branch of the service out? Oh, yeah. Any Marines here? You, proud of the Marines. Okay. Well, now that you've all had an opportunity to meet one another, I want you to continue your bonding process. We're going to start this event precisely at 1 p.m., so that's in 6 minutes. I would like to point out some of the many VIPs we have here, I could start this right now by asking the American Gold Star wives and the American Gold Star mothers who are in our front row, if you could stand up. And they lost their sons or husbands, some in Vietnam and some as late as Iraq and Afghanistan. So time marches on. I want to thank everyone for coming here, and we'll begin in approximately
Just
5
kicked it
minutes.
and made the, we're live. Say again?
I'm all right.
Okay, well, we're just about ready to start our event today. By the way, how many people, when they served in Vietnam or Iraq or other place, spent any time with the soldiers from Australia? Well, we're here today in part because we have someone from the Australian Embassy, and if you could just stand up for a moment. Two people, actually, yeah. All right. Why do I feel like going to the Outback Steakhouse right now? Foster's Lager. I love the commercial they used to have. It was the Australian guy saying, "I'm here because I'm here to tell you about the place that really knows how to make beer, Germany." Okay, well, we will now begin on behalf of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund and the National Park Service. This is our annual ceremony, and at this point in time, we would like to ask you to stand while the Military District of Washington Armed Services Color Guard presents the colors. Remain standing until the colors are retired. for that. And, here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance is Edward Times, a veteran Battle of the 1965 Yadrang Valley. He was appointed official wreath bearer for the 1st Cav Division by General Hal Moore in 1995, and he will be laying a wreath today at panel 3E. At this time, we can all slay the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. God bless America. God bless our troops on the battlefields of war today, and all of our veterans, and all these veterans that died on this panel. God bless America.
Thank you very much. Okay, you may be seated at this time. And Army Lieutenant Colonel Jay Johns, Deputy Command Chaplain for the Military District of Washington, will lead us in prayer.
Please join me in prayer. Gracious God, in whom we live and move and have our being, we recognize that freedom is not the substance of, but rather the context for, lives lived abundantly and excellently. We give thanks for the freedom we in this nation enjoy, but which we, because of the busyness of our lives, are prone to take for granted. Today we pause to acknowledge that freedom is not free. We're gathered in places all over our land this Veterans Day, in cemeteries, at monuments, on battlefields, and here at this wall. We gather to remember, with deep gratitude, those who have given their last full measure of devotion in armed conflict to the preservation of our liberty. We remember especially those who served so bravely and sacrificially in a faraway land called Vietnam. As friends, families, and those who shared foxholes spend time in remembrance here today.
The Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund has been very proud to work hand in hand with the National Park Service to ensure that the site, one of the most visited places in Washington, continues to offer visitors a very healing and positive experience during their visit. And we are partnering with them now to create the Education Center at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, which will be built across the street. This will work in synergy with the memorial itself to teach visitors about the values of individuals who served in all of America's wars, particularly the Vietnam War. But we will have the photographs of the casualties in there, and we're now part of a nationwide program. We have about almost 14,000 photographs now. We need all the photographs of the casualties from Vietnam, so come to our website, buildthecenter.org, and find out how to submit a photograph. This will be a great moving tribute for America's veterans. We look forward and have enjoyed working with the National Park Service to see it become a reality. In the meantime, we are working together on significant maintenance projects right here at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. In July, we completed a 6-week restoration of the 3 servicemen statue over there. It cost a lot of money to do that. We had to get the best people available, and to restore the patina. It actually looks as good as it did when it was new. But I want to thank each and every one of you, because we had to get the money from the people and the donors, and many of you out there gave donations to help that move along. The other thing we had to do was 2 years ago, this was literally the worst grass on the National Mall. I've never seen anything as bad as that. We got to work on it. We paid some contractors to come in here. We got the sprinklers working again. We did some double seeding, put some sod in there. It cost us a lot of money, but again, you all helped us raise that, and it's greatly appreciated. It's a great honor to work with the National Park Service to take care of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. You know, they're always here. We gave this memorial to the National Park Service in 1984, and Secretary Ken Salazar was actually going to speak with us today, but he got called away on urgent government business. But here to represent the Park Service is Maria Burks, acting Superintendent of the National Mall Memorial Parks. She's really done almost everything in her career, including running Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty, and very large, complicated parks with a lot of moving parts and outside organizations. And Park Service and the taxpayers are very lucky to have people like her. Okay, at this time, Maria, we would like to have you say a few words.
Thank you, Jan, and thanks for that very generous introduction. I appreciate it. And good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished guests, distinguished speakers, Vietnam veterans, ladies and gentlemen. I am Maria Burks. I'm the acting superintendent here, and I am representing Secretary Salazar. He very much wanted to be here today. He called last week and asked, could he come and speak? So not being able to come at the last minute was a real disappointment to him. But it's been a real gift for me. I remember vividly the first time I saw this memorial, and I remember walking down the wall, looking at the names, thinking about the stories behind those names, the meaning of the fact that they were on the wall, and it was transformative for me. And that experience stuck with me till this day, and so I'm just delighted to be here with you today. And I'd like to honor and recognize the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund and Jan Scruggs, for building the memorial so that we would all have a place to come, and for their ongoing work in partnership with us in the National Park Service to help all visitors come and understand and appreciate the memorial, what it means, and what it means to them personally, for their personal understanding. The memorial contains the permanent inscription of, I better read this because it's 58,267 names of the servicemen and women who died in Vietnam and those who remained missing in action from the Vietnam War. And it's a very special place where everyone can come together and remember and honor those who served, those who are still serving today. And the memorial actually consists of 4 parts. For those of you who haven't visited the other 3 parts, there's the wall behind us here. There's the 3 servicemen statue that Jan was just talking about, the in memory plaque, which is right behind it, and very specially today, the Vietnam Women's Memorial. Each of these elements is a little different, each holds a special significance, and each one is a touchstone for many people here today, and I can guarantee you for visitors who come here all year, every year. All over the country today, national parks are honoring veterans and Veterans Day. We're probably biased, but we do think that national parks are wonderful places to seek solace and inspiration. And many of our parks hold important monuments and memorials that recognize and pay tribute to Americans' veterans. So visiting them can give us all a way to recognize those who served and who continue to serve our great nation, and remind all Americans of the heritage that we hold in common. For that reason, the National Park Service is waiving fees today at national parks in honor of our veterans, servicemen and servicewomen, and we hope that you'll come see us. I know from the shout out that Jan did first thing that there are many veterans in the audience today, some who served in Vietnam, some who served or are currently serving in other conflicts and other wars around the globe. And as an American, I thank you for your selfless service to our country. I stand here in admiration of your sacrifices
II, World War II. Edward Calvert, if you can stand up. He was in World War II and in Vietnam with the U.S. Chaplain's Service. And if you ever get an opportunity to come to Washington's Shiloh Baptist Church here from time to time, you can hear say a few words. We also have the veterans of the Yadrang Valley here somewhere. Are you all sitting in that section, or you'd stand up for a minute? Remember that there was a big battle. It was a movie we were soldiers once and young, in which the North Vietnamese wanted to test our military systems and our abilities with to respond to their military tactics, and it was quite a mess. Anyway, at this time, I am pleased to introduce to you one of the great military leaders, really in modern history. General Barry McCaffrey served with great distinction in Vietnam. He's a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He won more than a few Purple Hearts. Was very seriously wounded, Distinguished Service Cross, and every medal you can possibly imagine. Very active combat leader. Four-star general, but retirement has never really worked for General McCaffrey. He's an MSNBC commentator. He is chairman of the advisory board for the Education Center at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, an expert on Mexico and many of the nation's and world's problems. He frequently gives lectures and also serves as an adjunct, a professor at the Military Academy at West Point, but he chairs our advisory board for the Education Center at the Memorial, and we have some very distinguished military veterans, historians, and others working with us to develop the exhibits from across the street for this facility. We're very happy to have him spearheading the project with us, along with the National Park Service, and we thank General McCaffrey for his leadership, and at this time he's here to say a couple of words.
Well, Jan, thanks very much, and to you and John Dibble and Peter Holt and General Colin Powell and the others who have come together to try and build this underground exhibit. Education Center will be right across the street. We've got 25 million. The momentum is gathering. We're enormously proud. We're going to link 58,000 of our fellow soldiers, Marines, Airmen, sailors. When their birthday comes up, we're going to memorialize them in that Education Center. The next 2 years will be very crucial. Go online and give us a hand. Let me also take 1 second to say how proud I am. Every 2 years, the company I was privileged to serve with in Vietnam, B Company, 2nd Battalion, 7th Cavalry, 68, 69, get together. Emerson Trainer, the first sergeant, and I are still the old guys. I started at age 25 as the old guy. Can I ask them all to stand up? Thanks for your service. My purpose is privilege is to introduce Air Vice Marshal Kim Osley. The United States and Australia are long-standing allies. We fought together in Vietnam. 60,000 Australians served with us. Many of the poignant items left at the wall reflect the service of these Australian soldiers and airmen. Air Vice Marshal Kim Osley now works at the Embassy of Australia here in Washington. He's a member of the Royal Australian Air Force since 1977. He had a distinguished career, as you would imagine, which included director of the Combined Air Ops Center in the Middle East from November 2006 to 2007. In that assignment, he directed coalition air operations, combat operations over both Iraq and Afghanistan. He took up his appointment then as head of the Australian Defense Staff here in Washington and as the Australian Defense Attaché at the Embassy. He holds a number of academic degrees. He's a member of the Order of Australia. He's been awarded a Conspicuous Service Cross both of which were given for his exceptional service to the Royal Australian Air Force throughout his career. Look, at the end of the day, the Aussies and the Americans have fought together in every conflict since World War I. They've been tremendous allies. They've shed their blood with us in Iraq and Afghanistan. Join me in welcoming Air Vice Marshal Kim Austin.
An Australian can't resist responding to that call, but General McCaffrey, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. To all our Vietnam veterans and veterans of all wars, and ladies and gents, it's a great honour to be up here in front and to talk about Australia's contribution over the years. I was quite amused to see how many people had actually come across Australia's in Vietnam, and I think the question that was asked was who had fought alongside Australians in Vietnam. I guess I should also ask the question, who has partied with the Australians in Vietnam? I'm surprised you survived. Ladies and gents, and particularly to our US Vietnam veterans, a very warm g'day from the Australian Vietnam veterans. They have just finished their Remembrance Day back in Australia, and I assure you that there's probably a couple of hangovers that are occurring right now, but they do remember just as fondly the friendships that they made in Vietnam. Perhaps on a bit more serious note, Australia, we call it Remembrance Day, and we call it that for a reason. 90 years ago, straight after World War I, we elected to call it Armistice Day and then finally Remembrance Day. And that came about because Australia in World War I was hit very hard by the number of casualties. Just to give you a couple of statistics there, we had 10% of our male population killed or injured. In fact, 3% were killed. That's an incredible decimation of our male population that occurred after World War I. If you're wondering why Australians are so strong about remembrance, that is where it all began. We had the highest ratio killed of any Allied nation in World War I. If the same ratio was applied to the US today, 4.5 million young males. So it's something which we don't take pride in, but we do acknowledge, and we do say that it's the reason that we must keep remembering on Remembrance Day. While Vietnam is a long way away from the US, there's another difference with Australia. Vietnam is in our backyard. So while it appeared to be a war at a distance for the US, for Australia, we were actually fighting for democracy in Southeast Asia, in our region. And so for us, the war has a great meaning that goes well beyond just the statistics. So thank you to all the Vietnam veterans for making democracy the rule of the day in our part of the world. We thank you. We had General McCaffrey pointed out, we had 60,000, almost 60,000 Australians surveyed there. Many of them were fighting or partying on the ground with the US forces there, but many of them were flying overhead, either with the United States Air Force or in their own aircraft.
I can't have you running around up here, okay? I'm on live television, you're bouncing my shit around.
Sailing off the Vietnam coast, giving naval gunfire support or other support. It was a very big deal to us. We have, unfortunately, 500 and more that did not come back. And the remembrance of those people is part of the reason that it's very important that Australia be involved in the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund and in the education centre that's being planned. There's a whole bunch of stories out there of veterans that need to be told about the mateship, about the war, about their bravery, their selflessness, about the people they left behind, what they became and who they came home to. And Australia is very keen to keep those memories alive so that for future generations. Our recently re-elected government back home has answered the call, and we are intending to donate $3 million to the education centre here in the US, so that what we'd like is that when the Australian veterans come across here, that they can stand side by side again with their Vietnam
veterans of the US and see their pictures of their cause alongside those of the US. So ladies and gents, thank you again for allowing an Aussie a long way from home to come across and just say a couple of words, but thank you in particular to our Vietnam veterans. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the inspiring words. And right, not long after the memorial was built, Australian veterans began